Welcome, Shanks, and thanks for being here today to talk to us about operational excellence in aged care.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here with you.
Now, I'd like to start today by asking what are some of the pressures and challenges aged care providers are navigating today?
Unfortunately, Tim, it is a tough environment for aged care providers today. If we just look at recent history and events, we can all reflect on the COVID-19 pandemic and the devastating impacts that's had on the sector. There's been a Royal Commission with some significant findings as well. And then on top of that, there's been ongoing and significant structural changes that have been occurring in the sector, all contributing to providers having to adapt their operating models. Add to this, workforce that is retiring quicker than we can replenish, and a demand-supply imbalance where more Australians are going into retirement, so the demands are increasing on the sector. So it's a very tough time, unfortunately.
It definitely sounds like very difficult circumstances. How would you say aged care providers and the sector more broadly are responding to some of these challenges?
Yeah, well, from a sector perspective, we've definitely seen and we'll continue to see a lot more consolidation activity across providers. And at a provider level, we've been encouraged by the adoption of operational excellence as a key pillar of the strategic agenda for the future.
It's interesting to hear you mention operational excellence as a key focus area for providers. Why would you say that is?
Operational excellence fundamentally is about establishing consistency, minimising waste, and maximising productivity. So for the aged care sector, which is supply side constrained, we simply do not have enough workers. It makes sense in that we're applying operational excellence principles to manage with the workforce that is available. So how can we deploy operational excellence principles to make sure we maximise things like retention, maximise utilisation of the field staff, the carers, etc., to then drive the industry forward. And this is where we're seeing significant upside potential at a provider level.
That makes sense, but I imagine there's a huge variety of areas providers could look to focus on. Where would you recommend they begin their journey to operational excellence?
Yeah, it's a good question. So at Trace, we'd certainly focus on the workforce planning, rostering and scheduling team. So that's an area where demand meets capacity, and for providers, it can be a good lever to establish operational excellence as a capability.
It's interesting to hear you use phrases like supply, demand, planning and scheduling. It sounds very much like supply chain. Is this where you recommend aged care providers could learn from traditional supply chain sectors?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in supply chain, as you know, we're often focused on the right product in the right place at the right time, and in order to deliver that at the right cost. There's been significant investment in the sector where supply chains have invested in capabilities such as demand planning, forecasting, capacity planning, route optimization. So what we're seeing more adoption of, and operational excellence is sort of the driver here for aged care, is whilst there's a human dimension, so right person, right place, right time with right ability, how can we start to introduce capabilities such as demand planning and forecasting to help the recruitment and HR teams in understanding and appreciating, okay, where should we recruit in the right areas or across the right abilities? How can we introduce capacity planning capabilities to then inform us on how we should manage our leave for the current workforce, and then also external brokers? And then lastly, route optimization. Given the push towards home care, we're seeing a lot more providers adopt that capability to improve things like cost to serve.
That's great and a really interesting way to look at it. Thanks, Shanks. Finally, do you have any final recommendations for providers looking to begin their journey towards operational excellence?
Absolutely. So I guess we'd focus on a core set of KPIs to target initially and then build from there. So often when we are engaged with clients, we typically look to things like your carer utilization or field staff utilization rates, scheduling efficiency, so looking at the team dynamics there. Cost to serve is often a critical one, and culturally I think that's got a long way to go. And then lastly, we'd look at the demand and supply imbalances in the services being demanded versus what's required from a workforce perspective.
That's excellent. Thanks for your time today, Shanks.
Thanks, Tim.